flexible exchange rate regime, and that is where we are currently. Under the flexible exchange rate regime, government does not determine how much dollars should go for 1 cedi or how much cedis should go for $1. That is determined by the market, demand and supply. It is determined by demand and supply of the currencies. Demand and supply of the currencies. In our situation, if we are practicing flexible exchange rate regime, then it is the availability of the dollar, euros, and pounds, those foreign currencies that we have here, that will determine the strength of the cedi in any day. And so currently that is what we've been going through. Indeed, we started flexible exchange rate regime in 1978. By 1983, when we subscribed to the economic reforms, the Bretton Woods economic institutions economic reforms, it became deepened. Ghana became more liberal, and that system goes very well with flexible exchange rate regime. And so since then, we have been practicing flexible exchange rate, and at any day, government of the day does not have control over how much cedis should be exchanged for dollar. It is the availability of the foreign currencies that will determine the value of our cedi. And so how does this happen? Under a flexible exchange rate regime, at what point in time does the local currency become stronger? In our case, at what point in time do we expect cedi to become stronger? Cedi becomes stronger anytime Ghana government goes out there for loan, grants, or when we sell our raw tin, raw cocoa, raw gold, raw crude oil. Anytime we make sales, we sell crude oil, Ghana government will get dollars, and those dollars are kept by Bank of Ghana in the basket we called international gross reserves. And so Bank of Ghana has been keeping those monies. When Ghana government goes for loan, for example, and the money comes, Bank of Ghana would have to keep that money in that basket and would give cedi equivalent to Ghana government. And when they keep it, that is what is known as gross international reserves. The higher it is, the stronger is the value of the cedi, because when we have more foreign currencies in the reserves, it gives Bank of Ghana that flexibility, that space to supply to the local market, to the foreign exchange market, anytime they see the value of the cedi suffering. And so that is one way of boosting our reserves. Another way is inflows of foreign direct investment. Many investors have been investing in our economy. People come here, especially in the natural resources. We always receive, investors coming all the way to Ghana to invest in our natural resources, some in telecommunication industry and some in other sectors of the economy. When these people come to invest in our economy, they come with dollars, they come with pound sterling, they come with euros, and that's how we also get supply of the foreign currencies. Again, another one is private firms exporting their products to other countries. I have highlighted this grain because that is the way to go. This is what we call economic reality. This is what we call, if we really want to keep the value of the cedi, this is what we should be doing, trying to get bigger firms, develop and promote firms to produce so much and meet outside market, meet the standard of the global market, sell in the global market, compete fairly in the global market, and bring in more dollars. That is what we can control. That is what will permanently give value to our cedi. Another one is remittances from abroad. We know many Ghanaians are working abroad and they do remit home. And so through that, we also get supply of the dollars, but that one cannot be controlled. When does cedi become weak? How does cedi become weak? In other words, demand for dollars. Anything that will push us to demand for dollars, anything that will push us to demand for euros and all the other things, will obviously see a dip in the value of the cedi. And so Ghana government has been going out for loans, just as when they go out for loans and they bring the money to Bank of Ghana, our reserves go up. When it is time for Ghana government to also pay their loans, to pay back the loans, to pay interest on the loans and all the others, Bank of Ghana does so on behalf of Ghana government. And when they are paying, they use foreign currencies. Anytime that they do that, the value of the cedi goes down. In other words, our reserves gets depleted, and when our reserves deplete, it affects the value of the local currency. Again, capital flight. We have so many investors coming in to invest in the economy. As I told you, at the end of every year, they are allowed to repatriate part of the profit that they get in Ghana. And so anytime that they do so, MTN, Vodafone, and all the other foreign companies, anytime that they repatriate their profit to their mother countries, we see a dip in the value of the cedi. And so if we look at the trend, you see that almost around every March, February, March, we see cedi losing more value because of the capital flight. Another one is oil import. Ghana, even though we produce 173,000 barrels of crude oil a day, we ship almost everything to US, and we go to Holland all the way to import about 120,000 barrels of refined oil, and we use dollars. Anytime we do that, it affects the supply of the dollar, and that also goes against the value of the cedi. Another one is general imports, importation of rice, car, toothpaste. So if we look at the trend, we realize that at the beginning of the year 2000, $1 was going for 35 pesos. And so at that time, if you had 35 pesos, you could, as it were, buy $1 or exchange for $1. Today, you need more than 12 cedis to get $1. And we all know what didn't happen last year. And when anytime our cedi depreciates, it affects livelihood, it affects and cost of living goes up, and every Ghanaian suffers. And that's exactly what we saw the year that ended 2022. This is not the first time we have been experiencing depreciation of cedi. Between the years 2013 and 2016, we saw cedi depreciating by 55.38%. At the beginning of 2013, that is exactly 7 January 2013, when President Mahama was sworn in as a president, you needed just 1 cedi 92 pesos or 1 cedi 89 pesos, and I have the link here to get $1. At the time President Mahama was handing over to President Akufo-Addo, we needed $1. Every $1, you needed 4 cedis 20 pesos just to get $1. And so cedi had depreciated. And during this time, cost of living became very higher. It became unbearable, and so we heard so much from MPP, especially Dr. Baumia, telling Ghanaians that if they are given power, they were going to arrest depreciation. So today, my focus was that were they able to honor that promise? Was cedi arrested? And if you look at what happened, when Akufo-Addo, during his first term, exactly on 7 January 2017, we saw $1 going for 4 cedis 20 pesos. But exactly on 7 January 2021, at the end of his first term, we saw $1 going for 5 cedis 86 pesos. And so the depreciation during his term was 27.71%, and this was the best record since 1992. And if you want to look at since the current political dispensation, the term that cedi did very well, then it was this very term where we saw cedi depreciating by only 27.71%. And so at that point in time, if you were part of that government, you would have said that, yes, we said we were going to arrest cedi. We managed to do that. And yes, indeed, we heard that story that Cedi had been arrested. Cedi had been arrested. But was it actually arrested, or they were dragging Cedi to sell? On the way, what happened to Cedi? Because the year that followed, we saw Cedi even doing better. That was 2021. We saw Cedi depreciating the entire year by 3.93%. And this was one of the best records since 1978, when Ghana adopted a flexible exchange rate regime. And so you would have clapped for them that, yes, indeed, they have done really well. They have managed to arrest the Cedi during their first term. Cedi depreciated by 27.7%, which has been the best record so far. And the first year in the second term, Cedi also performed remarkably well, depreciating just at 3.93%. And so the signals were that we were going to do very well with the Cedi. But we never saw this happening in the year 2022. Exactly at 17 minutes past 10 a.m. on 27th October 2022, Cedi was trading for dollar at almost 17 cedis. And at that point in time, if you looked at the value at the beginning of the year, $1 was going for 6 cedis, 20 pesos. If you looked at it, the Cedi had depreciated at that time by 55.05%. And that was very, very, very serious. And almost everybody in Ghana felt it. Prices of crude oil went up beyond the skies. Prices of goods and services went up beyond the reach of the poor. And everybody was crying. It wasn't easy at all. Even though November, December, Cedi did well, at the end of the year, we saw Cedi depreciating at 38.5%. And so the question many asked was that, you people said you have arrested Cedi. How come that we were experiencing what we saw in the year 2022? And so then I say, can we have policy measures to address the problem? When I heard Dr. Baumia mention that Cedi was going to be arrested, he didn't end it there. He talked about what this government calls Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. Indeed, this is not the only time we have heard a government coming up with such policy framework to help address the value of the Cedi. But that paper, I must say, was a very good document. If you read through it, you will see that there were quite a number of things that they were planning to boost local production, get agricultural sector to do very well, sufficiency in local production of our rice. If you are able to, currently, I'm told that we are able to just produce about 40% of our rice needs, and that's why we still have to import rice. Every year, we import rice to the tune of 1.2 billion US dollars, and that is not helping with the value of the Cedi. And so there was a plan to grow more rice. I'm not too sure whether they achieved those plans. But let me quickly say that planting for food and job, that one was well implemented, and we saw agricultural sector that was growing around 1%. This time around, growing over 6% for almost 5 consecutive years. And so to me, agricultural sector performance has been very phenomenal, except that we need to keep it up. One village, one dam was very good, but as we speak, I'm not too sure what has happened to that program. But that was a very good program, I must say. All these would help, but let me also talk even about what I recently heard, that Ghana has started importing pork from Brazil. And if you want to import pork from Brazil, definitely you need dollars, and it's not going to help with your dollar. We already import pork from South Africa. That's not good enough. Do we have any plans to build more piggery farms? I mean, to engage more people in the piggery farms. So I am looking at Ghana government looking at that direction. Again, Ghana government setting up one region, one pork factory, one region, one beef factory, maybe one beef factory, a very big one in northern region, northwest, where we have where people are engaged. People engage a lot in cattle rearing. We can also talk about sheep, goat, and all the others, because you see, Ghanaians spend a lot on meat, and most of the meat that we eat here, we we import them. That's not good enough. And so we can reduce or help maintain the value of the cedi if we invest so much in that direction. Producing more meat through a deliberate program, just like 1D, 1F that they did. I must say that that program has been very successful, because in the last 3 years, we have seen manufacturing sector growing over 6% consistently. And that to me is very positive mark. And so if we can, look at the other side of other sectors of the economy to do exactly what we are doing with the manufacturing sector, I tell you, we would be able to cut import drastically, because the demand for dollar is the reason why cedi is always losing value. And we demand dollar because we want to go and import cars. Thank God now I hear we have Toyota car assembling plant and other VW all here working. If we get all these cars to work, what is going to happen is that in no time, Nigerians and our neighbors will come to Ghana with dollars to buy Toyota, just as these days we go to Dubai and the other places to buy, Toyota. And so all these are very good steps in the right direction. We need to deepen that agenda, and that's the only way out. When we are able to produce more internally to cut the import, there wouldn't be any need for even dollar, because when we are able to do this, most of what we would have gone for dollar to import, we will be already producing them here, and for that matter, there wouldn't be any need to even look for dollar at all. And that's when we will see cedi stabilizing permanently, and so stabilization of cedi is economic reality. If we really want to make it work, we can do so through agriculture, through manufacturing, and even services, training of our critical service providers. I was told, recently that if you go to Cosmos, Tylo, and the other oil marketing companies, you hardly see Ghanaians working at the top, and the middle. Most of Ghanaians are at the lower level, because we don't have the human capital skills and the needed skill set to be competitive in that sector. And so we need to produce more of such people. India is now making it, because they have produced quite a number in the ICT, and they have exported. And when you are able to do so to export, what you are doing is that you'll be bringing dollars to your country instead of you going for dollars. And so in conclusion, what I'm trying to say is that we go out there to demand for dollars, because the toothpick that we use to clear our teeth after eating, we don't produce them here. We always have to go to China to import toothpick. Chamber pot, we go to China and other places to import. Toyota, we have been going to Prado, Land Cruiser, we go to Dubai. And so if you have Toyota car assembling plants working here, it means that the dollars that you would have exchanged to go to Dubai to buy, there will be no need for that, and cedi would maintain its value. Another thing that I've been talking about always is about our crude oil. Today, I'm told we produce 173,000 barrels. We sell everything, we take everything out, and we go out there to buy the refined oil. But thank God, I've heard that a Chinese refinery is just about coming on board to refine oil here. We need to deepen all those things. When you are able to cut import and you increase local production, not only are you saving or you are protecting the value of the cedi, but you also get so many people into work. We all know, and we have been told that out of over 40 million Ghanaians who are supposed to be working, only 2.3 million are actually paying income tax. And that's part of the reason why we are always going out there chasing loans at exorbitant rates. If we are able to get more people to the formal sector to work, Ghana government is going to rake in more revenue so that we wouldn't be chasing small loans at exorbitant rates. And so you see, increasing local production is the only option for us to go. There is no other way out. And I want to say that go if that is how we have to protect the value of our cedi. And let me quickly add that since the year 2007, almost every year when we Ghana governors, for that matter, will mount a roadshow to go to Eurobond capital market to rake in dollars to protect the value of the cedi. That has been the practice. Is that we have now been downgraded. One particular day, 45 countries in the southern part of the globe were downgraded. Ghana was included. To rake in the needed dollars to protect the value of our cedi. And significantly, that was the reason why last year cedi suffered so much. What do we need the dollar for? Because most of you see, we are creating jobs for our people. We are creating more revenue for our people so that we'll be less dependent on the global market. This is the only way to go. We don't have any other option. And so I want to urge government to move ahead with what they are doing. And so this particular presentation, I did my best to invite people from NDC and also MPP. I'm sure some of them join us. And when I finish this presentation, I'll try to put something little on board and share with my NDC friends and my MPP friends, because they are the parties that are likely to stay from government from 2025. We don't have any option. The only option left for Ghana today is to boost local production, to cut imports and promote export, so that the value of the cedi will stay at one place. And when that happens, prices of goods and services wouldn't be fluctuating as we saw it happen last year. And that is how ordinary Ghanaian could go to market and buy what they need, and life becomes affordable. Everybody enjoys until we are called to the eternity. On this note, let me thank you all for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. George Domfe. Until we are called to eternity, we need to increase or boost local production. Thanks for the interesting presentation. We have about 30 minutes to do Q&A, and thanks also for being on time. So now I'm going to open the floor. Please raise a hand and I'll call you to ask your questions for George to respond. Also, you can put your questions in the chat if it's much easier for you. So the floor is open. Please raise your hand and I'll call you. Thank you very much. Are there any burning questions? We have a hand raised. I saw it was a flash. Let me see. Yes, please go ahead. Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. Doc, thank you for the presentation. I need a bit of clarity on something. I was wrong, but I think I heard you say that the present government's flagship 1D1F policy has been successful. There's a couple of questions I would want you to just clarify for me. Number one, I would want to understand what problem really 1D1F was supposed to solve in terms of problem definition for policy development. What problem was it supposed to solve? And in your assessment of it by calling it successful, how did you measure the policy's implementation and reach, and with which parameters are you assessing its successfulness, for lack of better expression? Thank you, sir.
George, please, you can go ahead and respond. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Tepete. Sorry if I'm not able to pronounce the name right.
It's Victor. It's Victor from MRPP.
Victor, my own Victor. How are you, Victor? Okay.
I'm fine.
Yeah,
Victor, thank you.
Thanks so much for that beautiful question. So you see, Victor, our the discussion that we are having this afternoon is about cutting import and increasing, or boosting export. Of course, what we need 1D, 1F to do, I don't think it has even been able to do 2%. But my hope has been that it has been a very good step. It has been a very good step in the right direction. And so That is number one. Number two has been that even during COVID, we saw manufacturing sector growing at 2.9%. Last year, manufacturing sector at the half of the year was growing over 8%. We don't see manufacturing sector doing well. Indeed, since 1957 to date, if every year manufacturing sector was able to grow between 2 to 3%, we wouldn't be where we are today. But our manufacturing sector was almost dead. Most of the factories Kwame Nkrumah put up, not in the northern, we call it North Industrial Area. If you go there today, most of them have become churches. And so manufacturing sector was almost dead. And what they have done, even though it's not anywhere near what we need to be where we want to be, it has been a very good step in the right direction. I've been following it. Not a while ago, I was in a meeting where, and this is one of the success story about it. I was in a meeting where Ghana Commercial Bank was talking about the money Ghana government gave them to help to advance loan or credit facilities to the people who are engaging in 1D, 1F. And when I asked of the rate, it was shocking. They were giving to them at 10%. At that time, lending rate was 21%. At the time we had the meeting, that was where somewhere last year, July, June. Now it has gone beyond the skies. We all know what happened last year when the policy rate had to move from 14.3% all the way now to about 28%. So obviously lending rate is now in the regions of 30%, above 30%. But I'm saying at that time, lending rate hovered around 21%, and through one display 1F, it was being given to some people at 10%. And that is one success story about it, because Ghana, one fundamental reason why structural transformation has been a problem is access to affordable credit. And at 10%, I consider it affordable enough. And indeed, the turnover for those companies, has been overwhelming. It has been overwhelming, and that is significantly the reason why manufacturing sector is blossoming. It is doing so well, even though, as I told you, we still import heavily because it hasn't gotten us to where we want to be. But the success story written or told by about 146 of the factories, and out of these factories, let me quickly say that over 40 of them were existing factories, except that they were giving boost to, as it were, do better than they were doing. So, my brother, this is where I see the success story. And if you look back to our industrial, development, the history of Ghanaian industrial development, you could see that the last 3-4 years has been phenomenal. And indeed, if the last 20 years, 30 years, we have even been doing that, we wouldn't be where we are today. And so I'm calling it a success story, not because it is able to completely cut import, but it is showing positive signals that Ghana, we can also do something, my brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, George. Tekpete, please, are you okay with the response, or do you have any follow-up before we go to the next person?
Yes, I have a follow-up. There's something I have been thinking about, and I don't think Doc addressed for me. I'm still hoping he can help me with a certain conceptualization of the problem definition. What problem exactly 1D, 1F was supposed to solve? Because again, at least in my rudimentary understanding of policy development, you need to have a problem thoroughly defined for which you're proposing a policy. So exactly what were we trying to address as a people, for which reason we're rolling out 1D, 1F?
1D. Okay, let me quickly go. Madam Chairperson, permit me to.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
briefly.
so that is
Yes.
exactly,
Thank you.
Victor, that is exactly what I was saying. The problem is that we depend so much on what other people have produced in their economies. Toothpick, we go to China to buy. Almost everything, most of the things that we use here, we consume, we go out there to buy. And when you do that, you are creating jobs for your people. And so the 1D, 1F is part of our industrialization effort to create jobs for the people, while at the same time cutting import. And that's exactly what I told you, growing manufacturing sector. I gave you figures about the manufacturing that at the first half of last year, when the budget was read, they had data as of 30th June, the second half of the, second quarter of the year. The manufacturing sector was growing at 8%. And that meant that what we have always been seeking the manufacturing sector to do, we have seen it doing. Indeed, one fundamental problem with Ghanaian economy and many other economies is that we have been leapfrogging. We have been leapfrogging. When we say leapfrogging, every economy, we have three sectors of every economy. We have what we call primary sector, that's the agricultural sector. We have the secondary sector, that's the industrial sector, and also services or tertiary. Now, we saw that for many years, agricultural sector was the leading contributor to GDP. And somewhere around 2005, we saw agricultural sector giving over the leading contributor to our GDP to the tertiary. And so what it meant was that Ghana moved all the way from primary school to the tertiary without passing through the secondary school, the industrial sector. So leapfrogging, any economy that is leapfrogging is not able to create jobs. Any economy that is leapfrogging is import dependent. Any economy that is leapfrogging, the local currency suffers all the time. And so when there was a particular policy, one district, one factory, to lead agenda for industrialization, and rightly so when they started, we have seen over 146 of those factories working currently as I speak with you, and that's what I call it a success story. It might not be what everybody else can feel, because if indeed it is working so well, then we may not be going out there to import. But they just started, and so you don't expect that within just 2 years or 3 years, we can stop import. Even in the next 50 years, Ghana will still import. What will happen is that the level of import will go down, and so we will produce more of what we consume here. Through that, we will create jobs. Through that, domestic mobilization of resources will go to the next level, so that we wouldn't be chasing small loans at exorbitant rate. Last year, our total budget was 137 billion, and we have to spend 37 billion on interest payment. And that is why now today we are doing domestic debt and exchange and all those things. If we are able to do well, and Ghana government is getting the needed revenue, which they are not getting now, because it's not enough to get us where we want to be, and I told you earlier. But then we have seen what 1D, 1F currently doing, pushing the manufacturing. A 5.4% government association came out to say that the growth was triggered by growth in the manufacturing, growth sector, and growth in the telecommunication. And so you see that today, when we are talking about the enablers of growth, we are talking about manufacturing, something that has getting us to where we want to go. And that is why I call it a success story. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Domfe. We have a question in the chat from Dr. Emmanuel Kumi, and he says, to what extent is the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda related to efforts aimed at addressing the cedi depreciation? And also, given our current economic conditions, what do you think is the future of the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda?
Yeah, I think my line was breaking. Did anyone ask another question?
Let me read again. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you.
Okay, so we have a question from Dr. Emmanuel Kumi, and he's asking that to what extent is the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda related to efforts aimed at addressing the cedi depreciation? And also, given our current economic conditions, what do you think is the future of Ghana Beyond Aid?
Yes, very good question, and that relates very much, to what Victor asked. So it's seeking to boost local production. Let's produce and grow more of what we need to consume. And this one, as I said, it's not only today that we are starting this. Indeed, during the champion term, It was very popular. And the late Danlate was in charge during Kutu Echampon's regime. And they call it domestication, trying to, as it were, grow more of what you needed to eat. And so when we talk about Ghana Beyond Aid agenda, one of the things is that let's grow our agricultural sector. And again, agricultural sector's performance has been phenomenal. If you look at the data, the last 4 or 5 years, we are doing well with with the figures. Now, if you grow more of what you want to eat, especially I've talked about rice, that today we only produce 40% of our need. If we can quicken the steps to, as it were, produce 100% of what we need, and we don't have to go out there and buy rice, then there will be no demand for dollar to push the value of dollar up and the value of the cedi down. Currently, we spend $1.2 billion every year importing rice from China, from those other countries. But if assuming we are able to do well with the agricultural sector, we have a deliberate program to create sufficiency in the rice production to understand that in the next 4 years, we are able to produce so much to meet the local needs, then government can come out with a policy that nobody should import rice from so and so date. And when that happens, the 1.2 billion that otherwise would have exchanged hands from cedi to dollar to go and do the importation wouldn't be there. Cedi depreciates only when so many people go to the forex market to make a demand for foreign currencies against cedi. And so once we are able to do all this, we are helping the value of the cedi. Manufacturing. Today I hear Toyota is with us. They've started car assembling plant here. If it works, we wouldn't have to go to Dubai to buy a car. 2 years ago, someone bought a car from Dubai, and I bought the car last year, Toyota Land Cruiser. The person bought in dollars. In fact, when I was even buying from the person, I used dollars, and so those dollars that we have to exchange to go to Dubai to buy car, if we are able to deepen the production of Toyota here, instead of X demanding dollar to go and buy Toyota from outside, Nigerians, Ivorians and our neighbors, they will rather come to Ghana and use foreign currency to come and buy Toyota. What is more, as you are having Toyota here, you're also creating jobs for your people. Many people are going to engage in the value chain, and through that, you are creating jobs for your people. Ghana government revenue mobilization effort will be enhanced. And when that happens, over-reliance on, aid will go down. It's not Ghana Beyond Aid, it's not Ghana without aid. We may need the aid, but it wouldn't be as it is, because we are always running for aid. And when we talk about aid, we are talking about loans and grants. Together is what we call aid. And so last year, when we were blocked from going into the capital market, European capital market, look at how we all suffered, because as soon as that happened, cedi that was trading for around 8 cedis, 20 pesos to $1 at the beginning of August. By the end of October, it has moved to about 16 cedis, and it affected everything. Prices of crude oil, prices of food, everything went up. And today we are even still in there. Inflation went beyond 50%, and everybody was suffering. But if, assuming we were producing more, in fact, even during COVID time, one of the reasons why prices of goods and services went up, globally, US, UK, and everywhere, is because there was crisis in the global supply chain. Simply put, people who were supposed to produce during the COVID year couldn't produce, and so there were so many items you could not get on the global market. It affected Ghana so well because Ghana is so much integrated into the global financial system, and we don't have shock absorbers. When I say we don't have shock absorbers, we are not producing anything. We are almost consuming everything, and we are not producing anything. Our economy, excuse my language, has become so useless in creating jobs. We are so much over dependent on the global market, and we don't have any shocks. And that's why when any little thing happens to the global market, the adverse consequences is so severe. And so in order to, as it were, protect us from some of these shocks, it is important we build a resilient economy that is able to produce more of what the locals need, not to rely on what others are producing. And so Ghana Beyond Aid Agenda, if you read the document, that is what it is seeking to do. And I wish that document will be accepted by all people. One problem I have with the document is that it appears that it was too political. And so part of Ghanaians haven't accepted it so well. I wish we will move the political thing out of it and then, back into it, so that it doesn't matter whatever government that comes to power. We will have special programs to deepen local production, to cut import, promote export, keep the value of the cedi stagnating, produce, create more jobs, and then increase our revenue so that government wouldn't be chasing loans. And when we don't get it, then everybody suffers. And so that is my understanding about the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda.
Thank you very much, Dr. Domfe, for this elaborate explanation. I'll allow Abubakar Sadiq Ahmed to ask his comments, to make his contributions.
Right. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. Dr. Domfe, it was quite interesting listening to you. Of course, I'm not an economist, so please bear with me if I do not ask you maybe a question that is directly related to what you have presented, but I'll try my best. Listening to you carefully, my memory took me back to the period of the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah and how the Ghanaian economy was performing in his latter years and taken over by military government and, of course, later the Busia government. Subsequently, we had series of military regimes. And of course, as you rightly pointed out, we also had a fixed exchange rate. So some of the problems, one would say, were not as the same. In other words, the treatment of the problem was not as maybe it is done now with a flexible exchange rate, as stand to be corrected. But then with the periods that we've had democratic governance and an attempt to liberalize the economy, we started seeing different approach, to the management of the economy. But it looks as if over the long term, we're still grappling with the same issues. And my question is simple. Is it a question of our ability to manage the economy, or maybe something else? We've gone to the IMF 17 times, and it's also practically speaking, on the same issues. And we tend to have the same, approaches to tackling them. To the point of even we being forgiving our debt, in the 2000s, and then you talked about it where we had the currency, $1 to about 35 pesos. And then by 2007, we started going to the Eurobond for commercial loans. And then we became so used to it and continued borrowing Meanwhile, we still have deficit budget. So my question is, are we good managers of the economy? If we are not, maybe you will explain. If we are, please explain. I'm at a loss.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Domfe, before you respond to Abubakar's question, I would allow the others whose hands are raised, because we don't have much time, if they can quickly ask their questions, and then you can answer them together. But before that, if there is any feminine hand, there's any woman on the platform who really wants to ask a burning question, I'll give them the opportunity first, because I think we've been hearing a lot of masculine voices, and I would like to hear somebody else's voices that is closer to mine. Okay, so before that, James can ask his question.
Thank you, madam. Please, Doc. Hello?
Yes,
Hello,
you
Doc.
can go ahead.
Yeah, James.
Yes, sir. Currently, we have a problem, a national problem. That is, our economy is very bad and is moving from bad to worse. There is a thinking that the developed countries depend on Africa, including Ghana, to make their currency strong. They are seen as people who are fast thinkers, and they are also deep thinkers. So it's like they are using us, or they look at us to look at what we need. Then they produce it for us, and that at the end of the day makes their economy strong, and ours is becoming weaker and weaker. And you have been talking about production and production. And this is not the first time we are talking about production and production. And the production, we believe, the economists believe, that will scale Ghana above the current challenges. Now, may I know if the political actors of the day are listening to what we are discussing today? Because this is very important discussion we are holding today. And do you also believe that when we try to scale out of the problem, the developed countries are also thinking ahead of how to make us depend on them? Thank you, Doc.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
George, please hold on for a minute. Before Felix, is there any woman who wants to ask a question before I allow Felix to ask the last question? Okay. All right, Felix, please go ahead with your question then.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Domfe, thanks for the insightful and educative, presentation. I want to ask, in the short-term measures, what are some of the things that you think can be done to arrest the cedi depreciation, quite apart from these medium and short-term measures that we just presented? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So George, kindly wrap up with your responses to all the questions from Abubakar.
Okay. You see, all the questions. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And thank you very much for asking all these questions. Dr. Abubakar, Sadiq, and then James and Felix. Thank you for your questions. Dr. Abubakar, yes, you are right. We've gone to IMF 17 times. And anytime we went there, it was for one reason. Anytime we went there, it was for one reason. And I want everybody here to understand that. And the reason is that balance of payment problem. Balance of payment problem. I did initially state that Ghanaian economy is a very small open market economy. Ghana is the only country that uses cedi. And unfortunately, our consumption level is very high. I had the opportunity to be teaching in some universities outside Africa, outside Ghana. And anywhere I went in other African countries, you wouldn't see the type of car that I saw here, you wouldn't see them there. So our consumption level is very high. We are well integrated into the global financial system. If you go to US, Northern America, and you come to Ghana, the cars that you see on the street there are the very cars that you see here. I mean, our consumption pattern, we have imitated them, and so we do almost everything like them. The only difference is that we are not able to produce. So they produce, and we depend on what they have produced. That is the difference. And so at any point in time, we need dollars, we need foreign currency to buy what they have produced, so we can make a living in Ghana. And how do we get it? I initially talked about how we could get it through government, Ghana government going for loans, foreign direct investment, and all those things you can't control. For example, since 2007, we have been relying on euro bonds to shore up the value of our reserves in order to keep Cedi afloat. Just when last year we were not able to go to the market, we all saw what happened. And so you don't allow somebody to determine what should happen to you from their country. And so I have always said that Ghana, we are not as independent as we think we are. And indeed, just forgive my language, our stupidity is a success story for other people. And those other people who always want to keep us where we are. We only have to be very smart. China was just like Ghana at the beginning of 1980s. Chinese economy, the GDP was about 180 billion and for almost 1 billion population. So they were very poor at the beginning of 1980. China was poorer than we are today. But today, it is the second biggest economy, and the GDP is what? Over 14 trillion. Very huge. Because they did not they introduced a policy they call one area, one factory. That is what Ghana, we are trying to imitate. And China started producing almost everything that they needed to consume. And now, not only have they been able to produce more to feed their people, but they are now also producing for the rest of the world. If you go to Europe and you visit malls, you see China made, China made, China made. You know, that is where they are going. In our situation, we are so comfortable to be relying on the foreign, market, and that's not good enough. And so I wouldn't say we don't have the ability. We have the ability. What we don't have is unity. We started the current political dispensation in 1992, and since 1992, we've all witnessed the degree of animosity between MPP and NDC. If you have the leading two political parties fighting, what will happen? It is always said that when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. And that's exactly what we are experiencing. You know, they are not able to sit together, to plan together. At any point in time, one wants to discredit the other. And when that happens, the worst would always strive. The agenda will always strive through. And that is what is the problem. The ability, we have it, but we are not united. And so I am looking for a day that I will see President Mahama sitting here, President Akufo-Addo sitting here, and we are thinking about Ghana. Everybody is out there asking questions as well, what we can do to get to the next level. We are not seeing that. The political animosity is not helping us. And that is why when MPP is in power, NDC will do anything to discredit whatever they do. When NDC is in power, MPP wanting to cause disaffection will do everything to make NDC unpopular. When that happens, we can only change governments, but we can never change our situation. And so the ability we have, but we are not united. And in division, that is what happens. So Dr. Abubakar, that is what I would have to say. James, yes, the economy is currently having problem, but the problem we are having is not about growth. When we talk about the growth, it is about what you do, the increases in what you do, what I do, and what everyone else does. Indeed, today's economic growth is above average. Since if you look at the growth trends from 1957, we are doing better than average growth. And so talking about what you do, what I do, and what everyone else does, there's no problem with it. The problem is, where do we get the needed dollars to go out there and buy? Balance of payment. And that is the problem. Balance of payment is the problem that we are having. And debt overhang. We've borrowed because since 2007, we started going to the Eurobond. Anytime the bonds got matured, we went out there, mounted the roadshow to rake in new bonds to pay. That has been the practice. So last year, when we were blocked, not only did we not get enough to boost our reserves, but we also lost the opportunity to rake enough to pay our debt. And that is why currently we are suffering. Now, somebody was asking about the immediate measures. Immediately, there are only two things that everyone can do. And so when I hear all the other political parties, both MPP, both NDC, I'm a media person, I've been engaging them, I've been meeting them on set, and I tell them that there are only two possible ways to address the current problem, which are also not even possible. Number one, to ban import, because we need dollars we don't have, and that's why we are struggling. So we need dollars for what? To import what people have produced, because we can't produce it here. Now, if you want to go and get them produced here, if government gets up a day and say that I have banned import, what it means is that there will be no need for dollars. And so in that way, you would have solved the problem. But if you ban import, how are we going to make a living? Especially when over 60% of our rice needs comes from outside. The food that we consume here, over 95% comes from outside. All that, if you look at all those things, it means that if you ban import today, the economy will stop functioning. And so you cannot do that. Another one is to print dollars, because you need the dollars. And you don't, apart from borrowing to shore up your reserves, you don't have any other way. Another way is when you sell cocoa and all that. And recently, cocoa syndicated loan came and it is almost finished. So the only way out is to print dollars. But you as a country, you can't print dollars. Dollar is somebody's currency. And so now the only way the only option, short-term measure, was immediately to run to an IMF so we get the needed dollars to correct our imbalance, the balance of payment that we are having problem. And rather so, they gave us some policy measures. It is hospital, an IMF is hospital. When you go there, you don't tell them what you want to do. They tell you how you can get healed because you are sick. So one of the measures was that we have to renegotiate terms of payment of our interest. The one that we spent 37 billion on last year. And fortunately, now we are out there. And so when we have met almost all their conditionalities, I'm hoping and pray that during the year, they would extend $1.6 billion that they have promised to give us. And when they do that, that is how we are going to maintain the value of the city. But you see, it will finish. If they give 1.6 to us, and in the next 2 years they give 1.4 billion, that cannot solve our problem until we begin to produce more of what otherwise we would have used the dollar to buy. This problem will keep on going and coming back, and we cannot solve it. Politicians will be fighting, and we cannot solve it. So we need to, as it were, and as a matter of urgency, unite behind local production. Any policy that wants to move agricultural sector forward, let's all get behind it. It doesn't matter that, it doesn't mean that when government is doing something wrong, we shouldn't talk about it because we all have to go. No, they say he who lay in the path does not know his back is crooked. It behoves on those of us following to redirect them. And so we need to give what we call constructive criticisms. Government is doing this. We sit down, we look at alternatives. No one is a repository of intelligence. We'll tell them, and then we see the way to go. Ghana first. If we begin to see Ghana first, and we always give constructive criticisms, and the ruling government will also take those criticisms in good faith, we will go up there. That's how we can outwit the system. Otherwise, forgive me, we will always be stupid. And in our stupidity, someone else's economy gets thrive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. George Domfe. And thank you, everyone, for this interesting engagement and also for the questions. I think we've all learned a lot. I have. And this presentation raises a lot of questions and a lot of, future research also, and a lot of interesting areas where we also have to look into. I think Dr. Domfe is talking about production, and we all know this is an important reality, But then again, there are a lot of questions around how is this going to be possible? How are we going to really implement these projects? We hear a lot about boosting production, and also we have to think around who are these importers? Are they politicians? Are they high-class elites? Are they going to be permit this kind of project? So I think what Dr. George Domfe talks about is coming together as a country and putting the nation ahead of us as a point of focus instead of really relying on these ideological standpoints as well. And again, I think they're also very interesting for me with my work on labor and working in understanding how work even occurs and the conditions of work in some of these factories. It's raised a lot of questions, like when it comes to social policy. Many a time we talk about production, we talk about increasing manufacturing companies and all of that, but sometimes we don't even discuss this in relation to the people who are working in these places and how they actually benefit from the economics of these projects. So it's very interesting, and we have a lot of interesting conversations that we can actually keep going in our private spaces. I think many of us know Dr. Domfe personally, and I'm sure that we can continue the conversation in these private spaces as well. So on that note, I would like to say a big thank you to all of you. And our next seminar is in 2 weeks, and we hope that you'll be able to join us again. Thank you very much to all of you, and see you next 2 weeks, hopefully. Have a good day.